It's finally here. The Europa Universalis V official announcement. Perhaps the worst kept secret in strategy gaming, but nonetheless, I could not be more excited. Hello everybody, my name is Mew. I play a lot of Ambinar and I haven't posted on the YouTube channel in quite a while, but I couldn't help myself because I just need to yap. And I need to yap about what was Project Caesar and is now EU5. The official announcement came out just the other day, and I've been going through and watching all of the videos of the content creators that got access to the game a little bit early, or at least an early development build of it, just kind of soaking it in, trying to analyze and understand what's going on. And I mean, I was already excited before the announcement, for sure, but now I'm even more excited. I think I'm on the hype train officially, which is a very dangerous place to be. A lot of letdowns in gaming over the past few years, but surely this one's going to be it, right? This is going to be the one that I enjoy. Before we get too far into it, let me just kind of give you an idea of my experience with EU4 before we start talking about EU5. At the time of recording, I have about 6,000 hours in EU4, and that's across multiple different versions of it. I've played a lot of base game, I've played a lot of Ambinar, Mayo and Taxes, Elder Scrolls Universalis. I've touched upon a lot of different mods and seen different interpretations of how Europa Universalis as an idea can be put to paper, so to speak. And I think EU5 is going in the correct direction with a pop system, more in-depth trade, in-depth mechanics for both peacetime and wartime, and many, many more things. I mean, I could sit here all day and we could talk about each individual thing that has been gone over in the dev diaries, because I have been paying attention to the Tinto talks, which are the were the unofficial Europa Universalis V dev diaries. And I go through and I look at the comments and I try and understand what the devs are saying, and I've got an okay idea of what's going on here, even though I haven't played it myself. All right, so I think it's fair to say I love Europa Universalis, and I think I'm going to love Europa Universalis V. With all that being said, let's get into specifically what we're seeing on the screen here. This is just one of the screenshots that they released on the Steam page, because you can go wishlist it now, which, I mean, I already did immediately. And I, number one, love the look of the political map mode. Everything here looks great except for France, because, you know, France just ruins a map. It's too big, too blue. We should definitely partition that up and add more nations to the HRE, but that's just my opinion, you know. I just think it'd be better if there was more border gore. But yeah, I'm loving the way that they approached this release / announcement thing as well, right? The buildup of the Tinto talks, I think, is a really good way for them to have an open dialogue with the community. Community feedback has already been implemented. That is most assuredly the truth, and I think that it shows a high level of trust with the player base, and it also increases the trust of the player base in the developers. So what I kind of want to talk about today is, what did I see specifically in the content creators videos / these photos that I'm liking and what I'm not liking, and if this is the direction that I think they should be going in. And I think the answer is yes, this is the direction, as I've said. But let's talk about a couple of specific things. I already mentioned the map. It looks great. The UI. I've heard a lot of different things about the UI, right? And I think UI is a make or break for a strategy game, because at the end of the day, we're just staring at a map. So the UI has to be perfect, and that's a high standard to set, and I think they're going in the right direction. There are still some things that I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of. Like, if we look at the next photo that I have pulled up here, which is the Mamluk Sultanate of Egypt, you see on the left side that everything in the UI is fit into that left bar, and for a lot of it, it looks fine. Some of it looks like it might be a little bit too squished in, and I'd like the UI to be expanded a little bit, or a little bit larger. But it is a work in progress, and I think it was one of the things they specifically said was still having a lot of work done on it was the UI. So, you know, I don't want to criticize it too much, because it's not exactly fair to criticize an unfinished product or an unpresentable, like not ready to present project. But, you know, maybe I feel a little entitled since of all the Tinto talks, and yeah, you know, I just kind of want to get my opinion out there. So right here on this screen, we are looking at the population of Al-Qahira, sorry if I mispronounced that, which is the capital of the Mamluk Sultanate. And this is the first thing that I'm loving about EU5. Ooh boy, population. I think pops are a great way to move away from mana. I know some people really enjoy mana in EU4 for a long time. I did, but it started to get stale with just doing mana all the time. And so I'm glad that they are moving away from it in EU5 specifically. Your pops are your economy. They are your military. They are everything. You want more pops. So it's a good thing that nothing's going to happen in the first couple of years of the game that's going to make all of your pops disappear, right? That'd be crazy. So the second thing I want to talk about is the way that the map looks when you're zoomed up. So the terrain map mode, I suppose, instead of the political map mode. I think it looks... I do. I like the look of it. I believe these are floodplains here along the Nile, and then this is farmlands out towards the edge of the delta. I think it looks wonderful. The way the map looks, again, that's what we're doing all game is we're staring at a map, so I want it to be nice to look at. I put a lot of time, well, not a lot of time, but some time into Imperator Rome, and I also enjoyed their map, but I think this one beats it out, at least so far. I haven't seen anything where I'm like, no, that just looks bad. It looks good. It's not too saturated. It's not too dim. I think it gives a nice blend of realism with some stylization. That will be nice to look at for many, many hours to go. Third thing, little guys on the map. I love those little guys on the map, right? I love seeing my soldiers walk around. I like moving them. The models are looking good so far. There's diversity in the models, so that way they don't all look the same. I think they said you can have up to 30 of the same kind, or 30 of the same units. Like there's 30 units in each little stack at maximum, which is pretty cool. So I can be 30 different looking guys. You know, I don't want to mention any names about games that might not have had the little guys running around. But for me, that is part of the fun. And so I'm really excited that they are going to be there. I don't feel like it could be a Europa Universalis game without it. And then we have an actual battle screen here that they showed for the Marinid Sultanate of Morocco. I don't know why there's a scroll bar. This is one of the things about the UI that I wasn't exactly loving, is there's a scroll bar on the battle, and I'm not sure why that would need to be there. Like, is there information in this battle that I, as a player, am not getting without scrolling? Because otherwise, why is the scroll bar here? But again, that's small details compared to the overall larger point. I think battles are interesting in EU5. It's definitely an evolution of EU4, where EU4 you kind of just have guys stand across from each other and they just shoot, and that's it, and you roll the dice. But here, individual units are going to have a little bit more diversity in their stat lines. You have more things happening in combat, right? You have initiative for every unit, and you have different flanks that you can put things on. And I know that like CK2 had flanks, but I didn't play much CK2. But I'm definitely looking forward to this change. I'm hoping that it's going to make battles more interesting than just running around and just shrugging and be like, well, I hope I got the discipline to win, you know? So maybe there's a little bit more strategic planning that can go into it, which would be very, very, very exciting. And then I just kind of wanted to stop here on the Papal States because I think this is a particularly pretty area. I love to see the development of the provinces, or sorry, not provinces, locations, shown by the little houses on the map. This was in EU4. I remember when Leviathan dropped and you could get 3,000 development in a province, and the entire province would just be one giant city full of a bunch of little houses. But I think it adds a lot to the map to have it here. And so now I just want to talk about a little bit of what fears I had going into EU5 that have been alleviated by this announcement, by the videos that I've seen, that I think are a pretty integral part of if it could have a successful launch or not. Don't want to speak too soon, obviously, don't want to jinx it. The first one is mechanics. So a lot of times with new games, especially new strategy games, we all know how it goes. The game is released and then it feels empty in some ways, especially if it is a sequel. Right, there's things from the previous game that aren't there, and you sit there and you're like, well, I get that you can't add everything into the game, but some things just feel so, you know, EU4 that it would be weird if it wasn't an EU5. And the good news is, I don't think we're going to have that problem. I think we're going to be totally fine with not having enough new mechanics. Because of the change from mana to population, it opens up a lot of opportunities for new mechanics to be added in, and it doesn't ever feel like anything's being taken away from me as the player. Again, at least from what I've seen, that doesn't mean it's absolutely true. But things like trade, the building system has been, I don't know if overhauled is the right way to say it. It has been changed. And it looks like it's much more granular, and there's many more buildings to build, which is nice, because sometimes in EU4, it's kind of weird to only build 3 buildings in a province. So this time, at least in cities, you'll be able to customize it a little bit more. But I'm glad that, at least in EU5, for me, it doesn't feel like I'm going to buy the game, play the game, and be like, well, I wish this game had X in it. I wish that it had raising provinces from EU4. That's probably true. I love playing hordes. I love playing hordes, and unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to raise provinces. Oh, man. But we don't have monarch points, so I guess I don't need it anymore either. There's going to be plenty of new stuff to do that feeling of dropping off isn't going to be there, which is very, very exciting. And the second thing that I was a little bit worried about is that it would be simplified in a lot of ways, right? I didn't start playing grand strategy games until just about, actually, I think it was just before the pandemic hit. So I've only been at this for a couple of years compared to some people who've been at this for decades at this point. And the reason why I switched from playing a lot of Civ 6 to playing EU4 was because it was so much more in depth. So what I didn't want to see going from EU4 to EU5 is a simplification. I don't exactly love using simplification because it makes it sound like I'm saying that games should be overly complicated or that it shouldn't appeal to more casual gamers, and I don't think that's true. I think the automation system that they're adding in EU5 will definitely help with more casual gamers. If you don't want to mess with those sliders, then you can just have the game do it for you, and I think that's a good balance. But there's plenty of ways that you're going to be able to play this game. Trade is very in-depth. There's a lot of different strategies that you might be able to employ. And for me, that's a really big thing. I don't want to just play the same game over and over again, right? Like, I've done that with EU4, and one of the reasons why I play a lot of Anbanar is because there's a lot of custom-made mission trees in it, and so there's always something new for me to encounter and, and read and enjoy. And I'm hoping that in EU5, even before talking about missions and whatnot, that the new mechanics will allow you to make mechanical differences in your gameplay, right? Do you build up a trading empire, or do you build up an empire based on taxes? Right now, it looks like the answer is trading empire, because the economy might not be too balanced, but we'll get to that in a minute. But like, if I play, like, for example, Scotland at the beginning of the game can either choose to stay Scot, or they can go for Highland culture, and that will change the name of your nation. It will change kind of the path that you go down with it. Those are the kind of things that I want to see, right? If I want to play a Papal States game where I own all of Italy, I want that to be mechanically different, and I want to feel like a different game than if I did a colonial Papal States game, right? I don't even know if that would be a reasonable thing to do, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. And so having these in-depth mechanics, having this diversity of different ways that you can approach situations is very important to me. And from what I've seen from all of the content creators' games, that is available, right? You can go on a massive conquest spree early on, or you can just build extremely tall. You can try and rush colonization. You can focus on trade. You can focus on your historical events if you wanted to. And I think that's a good way to add replayability to the game. I'm not the kind of guy who likes to replay tags over and over again, but maybe this game will change that. Maybe EU5, I'll be there playing Milan over and over again. Because Milan, it's usually a pretty easy place to jump in. You're usually pretty strong. I don't know if that'll be my first game for EU5, but maybe it'd be worth replaying a couple of times due to the different mechanics. Let's see, what else do I have here? Worries. Yes, we do have to talk about worries. There are a couple things. I mentioned the UI earlier. I think overall the UI is going in the right direction. Don't get me wrong. But there are some things like, that fit in the bar on the left side that I think could use a little bit more tweaking. But overall, good. But again, very important to get it perfect. And it needs to be perfect on release. I don't want EU5 to release in a state where we all go, well, guess we'll come back in a year. And I know that is if we go by historical precedent, the most likely thing to happen. But I think a strong UI that communicates effectively to the player what's going on will help kind of soften the blow of the release, and people be like, yeah, I'll just come back in a year when there's more updates. I know the meme, that's kind of the truth, is you gotta wait for 2 years for a strategy game to become good. I think of all of the strategy games that I've seen released during my time in the sphere, this one has the best chance of not having that problem and really just hitting the ground running when the game does officially come out. Which, when does it come out? Tell us right now. Give us release date, please. The second one, performance. We all know late game EU4 can get pretty slow. Late game EU5, I am a little bit concerned. Now, I know that in the release videos, the content creators, they were talking about how the performance hasn't really been done yet, right? There's still a lot of passovers that they need to do in order to improve it, and that's good, right? They should absolutely make sure the performance is good at the beginning of the game at the very least. But later on, what is it like 100 years in, 200, 300, 400 years in? You know, does the game just slow to a crawl? Is it playable? That's just a question that we don't know the answer to, and we probably won't until the game actually releases. But it is probably my biggest worry, is the thing that keeps people from playing is not the depth of mechanics. It's not the complication. It's not the fear of trying a new game. It is the game does not run well, and therefore I'm not going to play it. And you can never really blame somebody for that. So I think it's, again, UI, performance. These are two things that absolutely have to be focused on and fixed before they release the game. Even if it takes another couple of months after they're done with development, with the beginning, if that's what it takes to polish the game and get it ready for release, I would really like to see that happen. The third thing, which is a bit of a smaller thing, is economic balance. As I mentioned a couple times, it seems like trade is extremely strong and should be strong. Don't get me wrong. Trade should be good, but I feel like early on, countries should be more focused on getting their money through tax. Then over time, as they build up a trade empire, then they can make more money from trade. But maybe that's just my Mayo and taxes side talking a little bit too much of how that usually goes. And maybe it'll be perfectly fine and I'm being dramatic. That is very, very possible. But in conclusion, again, EU5, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be really good. I'm on the hype train. And now the biggest struggle is, well, number one, waiting. And number two, who do I play first? I don't know. My first game in EU4 was in Ireland. And I don't think I want to do that in EU5. Because, it was a lot more painful in EU4 than I think it will be in EU5. But I played a lot of Milan first for all of my Mayo and Taxes games for 2.5 and 3.0. So we gotta decide that at some point. But as time goes on, as we get more information, as we see more, I'm sure I'll come to a conclusion. I'd love to know who you're playing first. It's always interesting where people decide to play. I was asking my chat just the other day of who they wanted to play, and someone was saying Mali first, which I thought was kind of surprising, but I think it's kind of cool that people have different interests all over the world, and I'd like to know kind of what you guys think. I think that's it. I think it's all the app that I've got for today. Maybe I'll release some more videos on EU5 as things go on. I have been going over all the Tinto talks, as I said, though I usually just post the VODs on my VOD channel, just in one big group. But maybe I make specific videos about some interesting Tinto talks, or if I have a specific thought about one of them. Also, I guess they're going to have to rename Tinto talks. Are they going to name them EU5 Development Diaries, or are they going to stick with Tinto talks? Because, it is still the Tinto studio. Who knows? I think they should stick with Tinto just because we've been here for a year. Why change it now? But that is all that I've got for today. If you want to catch me live, probably playing Ambinar, perhaps some other games as well, you can find me at poimu.twitch.tv. You can find that, or twitch.tv/poimu. I should probably know how to get that right. You can find that below in the description. Also in the description, I'll have a link to the playlist of all of the early access content creator videos. So that way you can go and watch them for yourself if you have not already. And they're all in one spot, so you can just watch them all like I did. I even didn't watch them on 2x speed, which is pretty good for me. I watched them all regular speed, even though that was much longer. I'm a 2x speed enjoyer, what can I say? But that's going to be it for today. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.